Hello and welcome to another edition of the Steelers Depot live stream. I am Alex Kozora. Joining me as always is Bryan. Dave, our first live stream since training camp began. We apologize and appreciate those who've been flexible with our schedule. It's been a crazy time of year, a lot of practices, a lot of fast food on my part, Dave, but we are well into training camp and the first preseason game is on the horizon Saturday night against Jacksonville. Excited for that, Dave. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. How are you doing is the real question. This is the part of time where I always start to get worried about you because you go through that long string of practices there in the middle of camp, and usually you're dragging. You usually drag them pretty good, but I think you sound a little bit better this time as opposed to previous years. So how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Feeling good overall. Nice off day to recharge and reset. So let's dive on in. Thank you guys for being here. We're here till 8 p.m. Eastern time, answering as many of your Steelers questions as possible. You can like the stream, also subscribe to the channel, and of course, check out the site on screen right now. SteelersDepot.com would really appreciate that. Just a quick question. Does everything look okay on screen right now? It looked a little fuzzy on my end. It looks okay, I think, on the stream, but just let me know. Is any text being hard to read, or is anything kind of being blurred on your guys' end, Dave? Do things look okay on your end, if you can see?
The text in the post looks to be a little blurred, but I haven't cleaned my glasses in a little bit either. But it does look a little bit blurry, the text in the post that you're showing.
Does it? Okay. What do you guys think in the chat? I mean, it's small, but is it clear? Because it looks like on my OBS player, it looks really bad, but I think it looks a whole lot better in the actual stream. But if any issues come up, just let us know. So we'll get started here. Just a reminder, if you want a guarantee of your question being asked and answered by Dave and myself, you can send us a super chat and move to the front of the line. No obligation to donate, but we appreciate that all the same. So I'm sure a ton of questions and a ton to get into, Dave. So let's dive on in. Josh Miller says, I didn't see you helping out Kabali with his car, Alex. Volunteers, not hostages. I was not credentialed media. I was not there. I'm glad Kabali got the car unstuck. Mike Adesso, hi guys.
Alex wouldn't have helped much with that.
Yeah, I'm not the muscle to help out. I can watch and direct, but even if I was there, I'm not much to service. Dave, I'm catching a lot of strays from you lately.
Yeah, Alex is the one they put in Alex is the kid they put in the car to steer.
Really, that is the truth for sure. All right, less about me, more about the team.
I'm sorry, Alex. I'm sorry.
It's all good. Mike Adesso says, hi guys, every camp there's always a player or two that's a camp darling or a guy that comes out of nowhere to be on the team's radar. Has anyone emerged yet? Doesn't seem like it. Yeah, is there any of that true blue camp darling that no one talked about? Probably not yet. Rock Taylor's gotten some buzz. I just finished compiling the stats, and he's had a big progression, a big leap in play these last 4 practices that have mostly been in pads compared to the first 4, that acclimation period. So that's a guy that got some buzz as a UDFA, but you know, he's big, he's got burst, he's got good hands, still fighting for a spot, practice squad more likely, but Rock Taylor, probably an easy name, but maybe the closest thing to that right now, Mike.
Yeah, and this class overall, at least on paper, seemed to be a little bit better. Now, they had already lost the one, who was it, the BYU kid that they signed?
Yeah, the defensive lineman.
Yeah, that they cut before camp and all like that. But and then obviously DJ Thomas Jones has been hurt. But I mean, you've had quite a few things to say, I think, about Rock Taylor and JJ Galbraith, and we've made sure to follow Sebastian Castro closely. Gareth Warren just got dinged up. We haven't had a whole lot to say about him, but he's an offensive lineman, and those guys are kind of hard to judge during camp anyway. Who else of this undrafted class, Alex?
Sebastian Castro just had a nice Sunday practice, kind of the first time he's popped in my notes, but he's lost playing time, and Chuck Clark's addition really going to squeeze guys like him and Quindell Johnson. I mean, you could talk about not true and blue darlings, but some guys who are interesting. Galbraith, as you said, maybe closest thing to a darling so far, but it's been a quieter last couple days for him. Cameron McCutcheon is a big, long cornerback getting a lot of reps. Eku Leota as an edge guy could make some plays as a speedy but undersized pass rusher. Those are some names that come to mind. But, right now, is there that true Damon Patterson type of guy that comes out of nowhere? I don't think we're quite there.
All right.
Next question comes from, we got some people in the chat too. Run Bayou, Jonathan, Carlos, Sam, Mike. Got a bunch of people here in the chat, so we appreciate all the support in our first live stream that really kicked off the season. Our last live stream was during the off season still. So Carlos says, any word on Aiden Williams? Think he could provide some depth at offensive tackle? Can't be worse than what we've got, right? Well, Aiden Williams has been a right guard for the Steelers. I know he played offensive tackle at D2, Minnesota Duluth, but he's been exclusively right guard, not gotten any tackle work in training camp, so I don't think that's the plan, and his play has been nondescript overall, but a little undersized, which is not a shocking thing for a small school kid as a rookie, so I don't see him factoring into the tackle equation or situation, Carlos. Next question comes from Billy. Should the Steelers move Troy Fautanu to left tackle and Jones back to right? At least Jones is serviceable on the right. What do you think, Dave, about the whole Fautanu and tackle shuffle?
They put him. Mike Tomlin put the kibosh on that just this past week. I think said they're leaving Fautanu at right tackle, and look, Jones. Say what you will about Broderick Jones. Was he even serviceable? I mean, he at right tackle, kid took his lumps last year for sure, and obviously the thought was okay, we'll get him back to his natural position. I think to keep it on a more positive note, I think you kind of noted the last couple of practices had been more positive with Broderick, right? To going into the off day at left tackle.
The Sunday practice I thought was pretty good for him, at least in some of the one-on-one and the observations that I had. I thought the Friday Night Lights practice was tougher and the half work that he got, but I thought Sunday was a good note to go out on. Fautanu, I want to keep it right tackle. He's not played left tackle now in 2 years after playing right tackle before getting hurt last year. I think he's looked comfortable at right tackle. If Jones is so bad you want to move positions, it's not going to matter where you're going to play him. Right tackle, left tackle, it's not going to work if you're at that kind of point. I don't think Pittsburgh is at that point yet. I want to let this thing play out, go through the preseason. That first month of the season you referenced, Dave, could be a really good litmus test for not just Jones, but the entire offensive line, this young group coming together against some defensive-minded and aggressive-minded coaches. So let's give it more time, but Fautanu, I'm with Tomlin. Keep him where he's at.
Man, when this team gets back from Ireland, we're gonna have either a good taste or a bad taste in our mouth about Broderick Jones at that point.
Yeah, absolutely, no question about that. Especially in that Minnesota game in Dublin against Brian Flores and all the exotic looks that gave Rodgers and the Jets fits last year. See, Michael, what tight ends and wide receivers have been Rodgers' favorite targets in practice so far? A good question. I plan to compile that at some point, either during camp or maybe right after training camp. I put up some numbers on him and DK Metcalf. That connection, while not perfect, has certainly heated up over the last 4 practices they worked together. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Sunday, they both got an off day on Saturday. So Metcalf by far has been his favorite target, and as it should be. I don't know the others. It's been a lot of Jonnu Smith. Not a lot of Roman Wilson. Calvin Austin's been hurt and been quiet whenever he was healthy the last couple days as well. But by far, Metcalf his favorite target.
All right.
I think it's 19 targets over the 4 practices they've had together in just a team period alone. It does not count 7-on-7. But we'll have some full stats for you guys in the AM. It won't answer that question exactly, but we'll give some more stats for Rodgers and the rest of the group. Who's returning kicks? There's actually a question before that was a couple questions in a comment run by you. I've heard Eccles is better than fans may expect. Yeah, I think Eccles has had a really good camp. He's gotten a little bit of first-team work when Darius Slay's gotten time off. Not as much even with Porter out, but I think he's had a solid camp, next span up, and I think he's played well, Dave.
Has he mostly been left outside corner? Has he done anything on the right side?
I went back and checked my notes the other day. He got the right corner work the day that Slay got off, I think it was. So he's been a lot of left corner. That's where he began with Trice on the right side, but he's gotten some right corner work too whenever Slay's gotten that one day off.
All right, that's good.
Jonathan says, I'm worried about O-line depth and offensive tackle specifically. Can they use their draft capital and cap space to whip up a swing tackle, or is that impossible? Dave, how would you go about trying to solve that?
I mean, I wish it was just like Madden, where you could push the button and get a trade to go through somewhere. Look, you look at some of these depth charts around the league, and it's always hard this time of year to find that good veteran kind of swing guy, if you will. And I mean, if there is somebody that's available to be traded for, it's probably because another team is pretty deep at the position. And those things, I mean, if you got somebody like that that's cheap on your roster, and you got a spot for them, why are you even going to let go of them unless you can get a little bit of return for them, especially if they're on a rookie contract and all. So you can never kind of rule that out completely. But if you look at over the years what the Steelers have kind of had to settle for as far as offensive linemen late in the process, it hasn't been great, has it, Alex? You go back, who was the offensive lineman they traded for?
Jesse Davis.
Jesse Davis. And it's been several years ago now. Wasn't it Levi Brown that they traded for? Was that right before the start of the season or right after the
trade deadline, I want to say, or mid-season?
Okay.
I want to
trade deadline. Those kind of things, if it is anybody worth a damn, you usually do have to come off some pretty good draft capital to get it. And it just seems like this team wants to hold on to that at least higher draft capital next year. Now, look, here's the thing, as Alex and I have talked about several times, I think as you go into these preseason games, you start maybe scouting these draft picks the last maybe 2 or 3 years of offensive linemen that maybe that the Steelers had an eye on, that maybe having decent preseasons, but just get squeezed out by their own team some way and get cut. And then maybe you claim someone in off waivers like that and start working with them on your 53-man roster. That's more than likely the most likeliest path that you go about this.
I agree. I mean, let the process play out. No rush to a decision today or tomorrow, but I think you're going to have to add some help there and get some depth. It was an issue before training camp. It's an issue now with some of your depth guys battling an injury. Calvin Anderson going to miss some amount of time with some unknown, maybe an oblique injury, it looked like in that Friday Night Lights practice. He got hurt late then. Dylan Cooks had a nice camp, but as you said earlier in our main show, Dave, yet to play in his first NFL game, so just not a lot of depth there. Even at guard, you're questionable. Spencer Anderson, you want a more than spot starter. So I think you're going to have to look what's going to be out there. We'll see. We'll talk about it some more. I got some names in mind, but Wanya Morris in Kansas City, former third-round pick, maybe falling out of favor there. Someone who's athletic and be part of the outside zone scheme Martha Smith wants to run. But we'll see. I think offensive line, though, has to at least be explored and likely added with at least one name.
Yep.
Got a very generous super chat from friend of the show and the live streams, Tony Anderson, $50. So thank you so much, Tony. Put some W's in the chat for him. We appreciate all the support there. So glad to be back with you guys. He says, the energy looks amazing at Latrobe this year. Is it always like that or just a bigger buzz this year? Also, any super dark horse to make this roster? Kind of like the Camp Darling question. I don't think I have a real dark horse yet. The defensive line battles will be interesting. Who will capture some of those final spots? A Logan Lee. Could Leal be the guy that was counted out that somehow plays his way back onto the roster? He's had a good camp. Mentioned Rock Taylor. If he can do some of these things inside stadiums, he's going to at least get a lot of buzz and probably be considered that camp darling. In terms of the energy, yeah, I mean, it sounds hyperbolic, but the crowds this year, Dave, have been the largest ever in my decade plus of going to St. Vincent College. The lines have been insane. The crowds have been absolutely full. And I don't know if that's an Aaron Rodgers effect or just the newness of all the pieces added or whatever the case is, but it has been the most energy and the biggest crowds by far since I've been going to Steelers training camp.
Yeah, I wonder if it's a combination of Rodgers and Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith and Obviously the buzz around the draft class again, which is usually the case, obviously every year, but might be a combination of everything when it comes to that. And I think you named some of those potential dark horses as well too. And look, we still got 3 preseason games to go. We've got a lot more to learn about several of these guys. And even when you talk about offensive line, and we've talked about Dylan Cook a lot over the years, could this be the year Dylan Cook puts it all together? Maybe he has a fantastic training camp and stays healthy. We went into last year wondering if 2024 preseason might be his year, but unfortunately he had that injury in camp that sidelined him, so we never really got to see him there. So we've got a lot to learn about this team starting on Saturday night against Jacksonville.
Agreed. And Matthew Kinney says about Rock Taylor, interested to see if he stays in the Berg. If he doesn't make the 53, I know we're going to hear a lot about this guy, could get claimed, and that always is a possibility, but there's so many receivers out there. Most teams have good depth there. Odds are he's a guy that would make it to the practice squad.
Yeah, now in the past couple of years, you have seen maybe a slight tick up around the league of undrafted free agents that wind up getting claimed, and by uptick, I say maybe 1 or 2 more, because the number hasn't generally been great. And I think sometimes when these guys have been like wide receivers, they've also had like kick returner ability and things, or special teams ability and all like that. And Rock Taylor, I don't imagine is going to be a special teams demon out there. So if he does have a good preseason as a wide receiver, is that even going to be enough to get him claimed by another team?
Right. He has gotten some gunner work. I imagine it's not going to be a prolific amount or resume, because I don't think he has it in college. But I mean, he'll play there, I'm sure, this in these preseason games. But as you said, probably not enough to draw interest from another team.
All right.
Just a reminder, if you guys could hit the like button to bring more of Steelers Nation into our live stream, would really appreciate that. Dave and I are here until 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Static MA says, who's returning kicks this year? Dave, who would you guess will be the 2 guys in the landing zone come September 7th?
I think there's a decent chance Warren might be one of those. Caleb Johnson could potentially be one of those. We're interested to see how they potentially use him back there. And I don't know. You tell me who's going to be who's the odds-on favorite with no Cordell back there to be back there with him.
It's a really good question. I think Kenneth Gainwell, you can probably lock in as one of your kick returners. The question to me is going to be the other, and it's pretty open right now. The names you mentioned could qualify. They've gotten work. Jalen Warren, Caleb Johnson. I would have to look back at some of my notes on who's been in the kick return lines. I remember punt return off the top of my head better than I do kick return. I think Caleb Johnson could be that guy. Could Roman Wilson get a look there to try to find ways to get him game day value? He's getting a lot of burn on special teams. And how about kind of a different name at you, Robert Woods? He's been in the punt return line. I think he's been in some kick return work as well. Try to find ways to get your number 4 receiver, who's not going to see a lot of offensive playing time in this Arthur Smith multi-tight end offense. Might be Robert Woods back there with Kenneth Gainwell.
And that's assuming that he makes it 53, right? 'Cause
right.
We've had our kind of wonders as of the last couple of weeks here, if we should be writing his name down in pen or not.
Yeah, it's not in pen. I still don't know who's going to knock him off right now. It would have to be Rock Taylor. Could still be Scotty Miller. I don't want to forget him. Want to give him his due. He's made some plays in camp, or an outside name if they were to bring in a receiver. A Dubs, a Lazard, Alec Pierce, Gabe Davis, somebody like that. So, get inside the stadium, it's really hard to simulate kick return work in training camp. You're not live. You're doing just kind of half-speed type stuff, working on technique. So get inside a stadium starting Saturday and kind of see who sticks out from there. David Kapoor, we appreciate the comments. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the training camp coverage. Josh Miller says,
I am.
I aim to please. Josh Miller says, is there any difference in how they are deploying Jonnu versus Pat in the offense? I'm curious how often we will see them on the field together versus interchangeably. I think we'll see them on the field together a lot. I know I have in camp. without just watching it live, it can be hard to give an exact answer in terms of the usage and all the alignments. We try to chart out as much as we can, but it's not like we can go back and watch the tape the way that, our Tom Mee charts the offense, or I chart the Steelers defense. So it's been similar. They've been on their feet. They've been flexed out. They're utilizing their pass catching ability, a little bit less of the inline type of work. Of course, Johnny Smith has gotten a little bit of running back work, so that's a difference with Pat Frymuth. Johnny Smith getting a toss, and he's got a background in the NFL doing that. But I think generally they're going to be versatile pieces. Smith probably a little more so than Frymuth, but they're going to play on their feet. They're going to be athletes and lean on those receiving chops.
Going to see both of them on the field a lot this year. Together.
Yes, we're going to see 12 personnel. We're going to see 13 personnel. We're going to see some 4 tight end sets we saw on Sunday, which I think is really exciting. A question about that here in a second. So, yeah, those tight ends will be leaned on. They were added for a reason. John Pennington, hello, Dave and Alex. Do you guys think if Rock doesn't make the 53, he'll get signed away before making it to the practice squad? Kind of address that. You never know. It just takes one team. Injuries can play a factor. If he has a great summer, personnel scouts will be watching, but receivers can be so deep, probably makes it through.
I agree.
And then he says, John does, should Warren, Williams, and Nestor all be on the practice squad? That's Gareth Warren, Aiden Williams, and Doug Nestor, some of the backup, second, third team offensive linemen. Getting to stadiums, a lot more to figure out. Warren's got to get healthy right now. Aiden Williams has not particularly impressed me. I think of those 3, Doug Nestor has the best shot of sticking on the practice squad right now, but there's still a whole lot more for us to evaluate, John.
I think the interesting thing about Nestor that I picked up from Alex right at the start of camp is Nestor's been flipping both sides at guard. And he also has some tackle background in him. I don't think you've charted him as playing any tackle in camp so far, but we expect to see him play at the very least both guard spots during the preseason. So definitely going to be excited to look for him because he didn't join this team last year until after camp, right? Until after
cutdowns. He was, I think, in Minnesota previously in his first NFL camp.
Right.
So that's a guy that probably has a decent chance to stick for being familiar in this offense a little bit, some of the versatility. He's got some size, some strength, and that's all been attractive. Simon Winstanley might have the best question of the live stream. We'll see if somebody can top it. Dave, I'm going to let you start this one. How goes it, Alex and Dave? Who plays the last snap for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Cam Hayward or Connor Hayward?
Oh, Cam Hayward's going to play the last snap for the Steelers.
So you think Connor will make it this year? They'll make the roster this year? Because that's the question. Like, who's going to have a longer career? Yeah,
I still think Cam wants to play out this deal. And I mean, if he has a halfway decent 2025, he's going to be back in 2026.
But couldn't Connor be back next year?
I mean, it's plausible, but I like Cam's chances a lot better.
I do too. So I know I had Connor Hayward off my couple previous editions of my 2025 pre-camp and post-draft predictions. As of today, he'll be back on it. He will replace DJ Thomas Jones or JJ Galbraith, but 2026, another year, gets that much tougher. His contract, his rookie deal runs through next year, right? He's under contract next year, Connor Hayward is?
Let me see real quick here.
Drafted in 22.
Here's the thing, though. One of Galbraith or Thomas Jones is going to have to, show something on special teams because that's where Connor really offers a lot of value at. This is the last year for Connor Hayward under contract.
Okay, yeah. He's a free agent after this year, so that cements my answer all the more that Cam Hayward has better odds playing that last snap than Connor did. It's like the TJ Watt, Derek Watt thing. TJ will hang around and hung around longer than Derek, but we'll see. Brian Jonker, how do you like the 4 tight end set with DK Metcalf? Do you think it's a gimmick, or is there a significant amount of run and pass concepts that can find success out of that formation? I'm excited about it, Dave. Maybe that's bias.
I am too.
In black and gold colored glasses, but I think they could have a lot of fun. It's a unique thing most teams can't offer, and it can be a matchup nightmare for defenses.
There are teams like Buffalo or whatnot that do a good job having a personnel grouping out there to defend either small or large on the offensive side there. But not a lot of teams around the league are set up to do that. They're either a base or a nickel. Or that kind of thing there. So I'm interested to see if they roll out a large personnel grouping like that, and you get a large personnel grouping against you, like a base or something like that. You've got to be able to flex that stuff out and be able to take advantage of that in the passing game. And I think they've got the personnel and Freiermuth and Jonnu and whichever wide receiver and whichever third or fourth tight end they put out there. Even if it is Connor Hayward can catch some balls. So we're going to see this more than we did last year, and how they utilize that and make teams pay is going to be a key part to several drives, I think.
Did we see it at all last year? I don't think we saw a single snap of 14 personnel or 4 tight end set.
We saw 4, didn't we, at one time?
Did we?
Was it 14 or was it? I can pull this up.
Maybe they did. I mean, I guess they had the guys. They were often active, but they had some injuries too, with Pruitt with that knee injury.
Let me go to the Playtime Stats here.
I should ask our Clayton Eckert how many snaps of 4 tight end personnel occurred across the NFL last year. Obviously, not going to be a large number, but I'd be curious to see who led the league in that stat, just to maybe see what their offense looked like and what those alignments and formations look like.
Let me see if I can find.
Because last year, it'd be Freiermuth, Washington, Hayward, and Pruitt, and you have a big glow up this year whenever you add Jonnu Smith and the strides Darnell Washington has made.
I thought for sure we saw 4 out there last year. I know we saw a lot of 3.
Yeah, they think they were first or second in the NFL in 13 personnel, but it wasn't that effective, which really makes the Jonnu Smith addition all the more critical.
Let me look at lineup detail here.
While you do that, I'll get to our next question briefly. Ronald Hall says, any 2 running back sets, Gainwell and Warren Johnson. It's the old classic pony backfield and pony formation. It is truly training camp. We have seen some of that because Gainwell has been splitting out as a receiver. He's been really utilized in that way, which is why he got signed. He's got a background at Memphis and Philadelphia, as a receiver. So it's been pony, but not in the sense of like the old Warren Najee days, or I don't know, Bell and probably D-Well did some of that kind of stuff. It really has been Gainwell as not a true receiver. He's not running double moves downfield, but he can run routes more than your typical receiver, and they're going to lean on that throughout the season.
Let me see here. I just pulled Tom Mead's charting up, and let me go to personnel here and see how much 14.
Or anything with a 4 in it.
Yeah, all we have is a 14 listed. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Did that come in one
plays.
Game or early in the season?
2 against Atlanta with 80, 81, 83, and 88. Let's see. Against Denver 2 times, against the Raiders twice, against the Jets 3 times, against Washington twice, against Cleveland twice, against Kansas City once, and against Cincinnati once.
So primarily the first half of the season. Sounds about. I think we're going to beat the 15 snaps in 2025,
I think
Dave.
so.
And I'm more than okay with that. Carlos says, any follow-up on the Mark Robinson fullback experiment, or was that a once-in-a-lifetime thing? Excuse me. Sounded promising and gave vibes to another D-tackle turned fullback. I'm blanking on the name. I think of Patrick Ricard in Baltimore. Sounds about right, Carlos. We'll see. I mean, it's something they're going to dabble. They're going to just see how a guy looks there and just kind of his feel about it all, and if they feel like he can do more of it. I know we saw Kendrick Green at fullback a couple years back, and that didn't end up meaning anything, but the more you can do, the better, so stay tuned.
Let's see, a couple of times within this, it looks like in the 14, they brought Spencer Anderson on the field and had him as a tight end for 2 of those plays, it looks like.
So 13 snaps of true?
Another one with a couple more with Anderson too. So it looks like it looks like 5 of those Spencer Anderson was used as a tight end.
Okay, so 14
11,
personnel.
10 or so. What did I say the total was? 15?
15. So how many of those with Anderson on the field?
Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, so 10 true and blue, 4 literal tight ends on the field snaps.
Yeah, and as you stated, most of those seem to have come near the first half of the season when Pruitt was healthy.
Okay, gotcha. But yeah, Pittsburgh has the horses to do it a whole lot more this year, because even Hayward can catch. Like, he's a capable receiver. He struggled to find the fit in the Arthur Smith system, but if he can get the one-on-one matchup, I mean, again, and not even just the 4 tight ends, but okay, who's the 5th skill guy? Is it DK Metcalf? Is it Caleb Johnson? Is it Kenneth Gainwell, which is what they did yesterday? I mean, there's a lot of fun you could have with that last piece. Johnny Smith can run the football, so you could even go DK Metcalf and have a quote-unquote no running back on the field and hand off a jet sweep, a toss to Johnny Smith. Who knows? You can really just have fun with it, and that is exciting.
Yep,
all
indeed.
Right. What else do we have here? About a half hour left. Run by you with a blast from the past, talking about offensive line depth and testing and guys that kind of got thrown into action. He says, Chris Scott gave us an idea of how bad it can get back in the early 2010s. Yeah, that was a disaster mid-round pick.
Yeah, he didn't. What did he have? Something like a foot injury or something early in his career, too, that had landed him.
That's the Tony Hills drop foot?
No, I know Chris Scott had something that landed him on PUP at least one season.
He break his foot or something?
I thought. Let me see.
I mean, your long-term memory is aces, so I assume that's correct. But his play, he was that tackle guard, kind of a big sloppy body, and just never worked out.
Right. Yeah. 2000. I'm not bad for an old man here. 2010. Chris Scott foot started training camp off on the active PUP, and I think he ended up being on reserve PUP after that. I'm not showing. I'll have to dig deeper to find. And Scott was signed, let's see. Yeah, in 2011, yeah, he had nothing but injury concerns with Chris Scott.
Gotcha.
He went on to contribute for the Panthers for a couple of years. Didn't even start a little bit for them at like left guard or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I probably did. I'll trust you on that one, Dave. Almost 100 people here in the chat. Let's try to get to triple digits. Would appreciate that. So hit that like button and really bring in as many of Steelers Nation as possible. We appreciate it. Tim Chase says Steelers better find a receiver to trade for. A huge problem. Roman Wilson busting out. Your opinion? Too early to say that on Roman, but it has been a pretty quiet training camp. There's not been a lot of plays. He's made a couple plays in one-on-one, but I looked up. I just pulled the numbers on him. I think he has 6 catches through all the team periods and all the practices, and he's been healthy every step of the way, which is good, but the production really hasn't been there. So, I know in the Arthur Smith system, maybe how much can that even support a third receiver like Roman? Not that much. So do you feel compelled to go out there and add because you have all the tight ends, you want to run the ball, the backs are going to catch passes, but yeah, it's you wonder the longer this goes on, the offense struggles. Will this team feel some obligation to go add somebody?
And even let's say Roman Wilson has a heck of a preseason and all like that. You still have to wonder. And we did this exercise with me, you, and Ross not long ago on the podcast and all about what is the potential high side for receptions for a guy like Roman Wilson. I mean, I think for him to break 30 receptions would be quite an accomplishment for him based on what this team wants to do on offense this year, and also considering that he's likely to be at best a number 3 wide receiver on the depth chart. It's just, I agree. It's hard to especially if you're one of those ones that thinks DK Metcalf's going to catch 90 balls, and if you think a guy like Calvin Austin's going to catch 40 to 55 balls, and if you think both these tight ends are going to catch at least 50 balls apiece. And where does the rest, where that's the problem that with that Ross and ran into, and you to some degree as well too, unless you think Aaron Rodgers is going to throw for 4,000 yards. And it's hard to carve out all these receptions that everybody wants all these guys to have. So that's why I kind of think that if Roman Wilson catches 30 to 35 passes, it's been a hell of a season for him.
He's a guy that needs to look good inside stadiums. These 3 exhibition games, didn't get to play in the preseason last year, has to start turning some heads, stacking good days. So far, that has not happened.
Okay.
Next question comes from Mike Adesso. Okay, Alex, I'm putting you on the spot. Which practice should I attend this week, Tuesday or Wednesday? I've held off going so far because of how packed it was, but I'm hoping this week it'll lighten up. You and me both hoping it lightens up a little bit. I hadn't checked the weather. I think the weather's going to be decent on both days. I'll say Tuesday because I'm more confident they'll be in pads Tuesday. As you get further into the week, they may not, or they may begin ramping things down in preparation for the game. They'll probably have a walkthrough on Thursday, so definitely I would not say go to Thursday's practice. It could be really boring. I would probably say Tuesday, but don't hold me to it because I don't know. I'm just there every day, and I'm along for the ride.
Always bring a towel.
It's good advice. Let's see. Mark Miller, name someone whose play has been surprising at camp so far, either good or bad. I have to really sit down and probably formulate my thoughts, and I don't have a ton of. I have a lot of camp thoughts, obviously, but in terms of conclusions, I kind of let the camp process play out at least until that first game. After that first game, things kind of start to ramp down. You're in game action. There's more film to go off of. The camp performance means a little bit less, but I always have that head in my notes, so it's hard to kind of pan out and get those big picture perspectives. DeMarvin Leal's a guy that's had a really good camp. He's a really good athlete. He's playing the run hard. He chases after the football. He's made plays. I didn't love the idea of him playing outside linebacker whenever we saw that at training camp, but I can kind of get the allure with his size and strength that can create some mismatches on tight ends. So how does he fit? How does he make it? Still tough to find, but Leal is a guy that's not going away without a fight.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard anything. I know, again, you kind of living through tweets and art conversations, but any names that might come to mind, Dave?
I usually get a more well-rounded thought process about a lot of these guys once the preseason gets underway, and I can watch the all 22 and all. So that's when I live vicariously through you most of if not all of training camp.
Sure. Carlos says, do we really need a number 2 receiver? What has been the best wide receiver 2 for a Smith offense? It was Corey Davis. We just had that conversation. Was that 2019 where he almost had 1,000 yards? But point taken. And, Calvin Austin's not chopped liver over. He made some plays last year. He made strides. He's got the injury right now. Hopefully it's a minor thing. So even if Roman Wilson doesn't progress, and even if hypothetically he becomes a bust, there still is Calvin Austin as a playmaker who can, hit a big play every now and then. So do you need it? To answer your question directly, Carlos, no, I don't think this offense needs it, but of course, the more the merrier, especially what if DK Metcalf goes down for 2 weeks, for a month, like George Pickens did last year? Then what do? You're in big trouble. It's a very similar situation last year where you're hoping the Pickens stays healthy and is good, and he wasn't towards the end, and that certainly coincided with his team's horrible 5-game losing streak.
And look, the other way to look at this, though, is even with this wide receiver group as is right now, for most of his career in Seattle, DK has had some nice compliments with him, whether it be, Lockett and most recently in Jigba. Go down the list of guys that he's played with opposite him in Seattle, What's going to happen if I'm opposing defenses right now? I am making sure that DK Metcalf gets most of my attention with help over the top over there. So if that's the case, teams are going to learn. Teams are going to try to make the Steelers go away from DK as much as possible in games. And do you have a guy like Calvin Austin or Roman Wilson, or are you going to religiously use your tight ends in the passing game to help offset that? Because there's no way as a defensive coordinator, and as we talked about specifically in these first 4 games with these defensive-minded coaching staffs or whatnot that the Steelers are going to play against, you can bet I'm not going to let DK Metcalf be the reason that the Steelers beat me.
Sure, you take him away and force other guys to step up. That would be the game plan, and that was the game plan last year. Don't let George Pickens beat you. Make other guys do it. I think Pittsburgh has some better weapons this year and a better quarterback and hopefully better offensive line play, but that will be the philosophy for sure. Mm-hmm. All right, what else do we have here? Run Bayou says, I look forward to the camp podcasts every year. No fan base has it better than the Steelers Depot readers. Thank you, Run. We appreciate that. Static says, one player I've always loved on the Browns offense was Njoku. That's David Njoku. I think we got a pretty similar guy in Jonnu Smith. Yeah, I can see that. I think Smith might even be more versatile, but the run after catch ability with Jonnu Smith, I think, is really interesting, what he can offer this offense.
Yeah, I mean, look what he did in last year with Miami. That's obviously a ceiling for him. I don't expect him to hit those numbers this year with the Steelers, but I mean, you got a good look at what all he can do.
Steel Pastor, this is the comment about the answer to the huge crowds at Latrobe. You guys are too humble. The reason for the huge crowds is the fame and renown of the Steelers Depot staff. Fame has its price, so I guess I'm bringing them in.
How many autographs have you signed, Alex? Any?
0, because it would devalue whatever I'd be signing there. But some people have come up and said hello, and they love the podcast and the site, and love listening to you and I talk, Dave. So we appreciate everyone who has come up. But I promise I am the last reason why the crowds have been record numbers in Latrobe this year.
No, you just being nice. Ain't nobody come up to you and told you that they like listening to me.
They do. Yes, right? They do, Dave. They really, really do. I promise. All right, Mark Cunningham. Hey, Alex and Dave. I can't remember being more hyped for a preseason game. How many starters are going to play this week, in your guys' opinion? I mean, a lot of them are going to sit, Dave. The big question to me in terms of starters is, will Aaron Rodgers play? And if he plays, then obviously more starters will play alongside him offensively.
I don't know if Mike Tomlin's gonna. Hey, do we even know have they released that in the media release yet? If he's holding a press conference tomorrow, do we know that?
No, I don't know when he'll be talking. We should look at last year's because I'm sure whatever he's done in the past will be the guide this year, but I don't know.
All right, if Mike Tomlin speaks, he's going to speak one of these days before the game. Well, so he needs to be asked. Will Aaron Rodgers play in this game against the Jaguars? And even that might not be enough to get a yes or no answer from him. But I am interested to see if he does wind up playing. I personally would like to see him play 2 series. We talked about that this morning, but I have no idea if he's going to play.
Same. I could really see it either way. New to the team, he traditionally has not played in the preseason. He played 1 game in 23, his first year with the Jets. I think he will play at some point this preseason, but will it be just 1 game? It may depend on how this offense looks these next couple days. If they start getting it going, then Pittsburgh may say we're okay. If it still is a problem, they may try to get 1 or 2 drives against a new-look defense to figure out, is our offense struggling because our defense looks amazing, or is it struggling because it's just struggling? So I'm kind of leaning towards he will play a little bit, but we shall see. And of course, if he doesn't play, then you're not going to see a lot of these other guys play. DK Metcalf won't play, Isaac Seumalo won't play, and the like. Skirt has an interesting question. Do you know, or do you think all 32 teams or any of them have staff or independent contractors that watch and listen to channels like yours to do research and scout the other teams? What do you think about that, Dave? Are the teams listening to us right now?
No, if they are, it's because they're diehard Steeler fans. I kind of doubt that. I mean, now look, anybody can get into Steelers training camp, right?
Sure.
What's there to prevent one of these for these teams that have maybe extending scouting, before let me tell you, I'll tell you this. If I had to scout a large enough scouting department and the Steelers were one of the first few teams that I play in 2025, I would send someone out to training camp a couple of days.
Yeah, that's interesting. Pittsburgh is probably the most open and accessible training camp. Others are certainly a lot more closed off than the Steelers. So I think there are, I don't know how it's done. I don't know if it's independent. It's probably more like the interns or maybe some pro scouting personnel guys when they have a free second. But I think those guys keep an ear towards social media and transactions and what other coaches, at least what other teams are saying. Maybe not what you and I are saying, but what did Mike Tomlin say in his press conference? What did the new head coach their team is playing? I don't know, Liam, what is it? It was a Jaguars coach, Cohen, right? What did he say? What is the plan on Travis Hunter? Where's he getting work at? What's the beat guy saying about how many snaps he's taking a corner receiver? I bet you there's some intrigue there from at least people who have boots on the ground.
Okay.
Let's see, what else do we have? Jonathan Johnson says, hey guys, I don't often make the live streams, but I just wanted to tell you what a great job y'all do and how much I appreciate you. No other NFL team has such a detailed, analysis-driven show. Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan.
All right.
Appreciate
Thank
that.
you. We enjoy doing it. We enjoy going down the rabbit holes. We enjoy pulling up charting from last season of Tom Mead, and that's why we do it, because we like, I mean, you never know when one of us is going to think, hey, how many times did they have four tight ends on the field and all like that? That's exactly why we do it, and it helps not only answer our own questions, but it helps provide info to listeners and all as well too. We eat this kind of stuff. We are coming into one of my favorite time of the season, and that's actually the preseason part of it, because we'll have the all 22 right after the not too long after the games, and I get to catch up a little bit because Alex obviously sees everything that happens at training camp. I don't. I have to live That's why I ask the kind of questions that I do in these wrap-up special edition podcasts, because first and foremost, I want my questions answered from Alex. And in doing so and being kind of selfish in that, I'm hopefully a lot of you listeners are vicariously living through my questions and getting answers to some of these things, instead of just, so-and-so caught, made a fantastic catch, those kind of things there. And that's why I kind of go into a specific too. I want to know who's running in what lines. I want to know going into this first preseason game, what to expect, as far as the line combinations, who's going to be on what side, at what position. And it helps me kind of digest the live preseason game better when there's 91 guys on the roster to try to think of, okay, well, wait, who's that, who's in this group and all like that. Cause I already feel like I somewhat got answers to the test already within that. And it makes, watching the actual preseason game, especially when you get into third and fourth quarter, a lot more enjoyable, because you kind of know what to expect and who's out there, kind of thing.
Yeah, you're not spending your time just focusing on, okay, who's out there and who's playing where. You're just focusing on how's this guy doing, how's the quality of his play, instead of just where he's playing and what the depth chart looks like. So that's why we do that. That's why we do our play-by-play for training camp. Some may think it's overkill, but we like to use it for just interesting notes and nuggets, not to weaponize it and say, this guy has this stat, so he's amazing, or this guy has these poor stats and he sucks. But we like to use it to compare and contrast, peer to peer, player to player, year to year. And I think it's just, you never know what nugget might come up that might be interesting, and that's kind of the whole theory of the site, I think, Dave.
Yeah, that's the way this thing, started in the early days and all. Heck, we used to try to break down the tape just on the TV tape and chart and grade offensive line.
You're right. You graded offensive line play, right?
Yeah,
Play-by-play?
yeah.
Like PFF before PFF.
Yeah, that was hard to do, brother. Man, I don't ever want to go back to that. That's for sure.
All right. Rick Love says, do you see Khan bringing on another tackle? Broderick, from what I hear, is not having a good camp. Can Troy stay healthy? Injuries are likely at that position regardless, and I don't like the depth. I think they do bring a tackle in. I mean, we'll see what Calvin Anderson's injury outlook is. It's probably going to be a week-to-week kind of thing with him. We'll see if he's out there Tuesday, but not super hopeful that'll occur. Not to replace Broderick, to bring in a tackle. You're not going to find that talent anyway. And Jones, it's still early. Let's get him to a game. He got hurt. He came back. He had a good practice Sunday, so I'm not sounding the alarm to the degree that others are. It's not been a great start to camp. Obviously, you'd love to sit there and say Jones has been crushing it and been healthy, and that's not the case. But yeah, I think depth is certainly thin across the entire offensive line. I think they're going to look at the waiver wire pretty good.
And Fautano has had a better camp than Jones, right?
Oh, yeah, he's looked good. He's had a nice camp. He's been a bright spot. Still want to see him in game action because that is still so limited. He's basically played 6 quarters.
Yeah.
He played the game last year
Some
against Denver.
preseason.
Well, he played the first half of that Houston game and then never played again. That's
right.
Whenever he sprained his MCL. Like, took him out at halftime. So, yeah, still need to learn a lot more, but it's been a good camp and good battles as he faces TJ Watt often. John Pennington, could Rock Taylor with his size be using that 4 tight end set? No. I mean, Rock's going to make the 53 first, and he's got size, but he's not tight end big, and, they're going to lean on some of those guys with NFL experience.
Right. If Rock Taylor makes this roster, he's going to be clamoring just to get a helmet, probably.
Right. Brian Junker, do you think Troy Fautanu is injury prone? Dave, what do you think?
I mean, it's too early to talk about that. I mean, obviously there is that concern, with the knee, but yeah, let's. Corey Trice is the one that's got the injury problem right now.
Yes.
Let's wait before we label Troy Fautanu injury prone.
I would say he isn't. He's had some freak things, some unfortunate things. MCL last year in the summer, dislocated kneecap in practice, a freak moment there, but I'm not seeing the repeated actions the way that a Corey Trice has, which is unfortunate because the dude is super talented, easy guy to root for, but man, he's just never healthy, and he's not healthy right now. Probably won't practice for a while. I don't know. It's unfortunate for Corey Trice, but that is injury prone. Senquez Golson was injury prone. Fautanu is not injury prone. Tim Chase, biggest weakness is receiver. Any real good options? Yeah, I think there'll be some out there. We mentioned the names: Dubs, Lazard, Pierce, Davis as a free agent. Amari Cooper still a free agent. He has not retired. That was a fake post, apparently. So we'll see. Keep evaluating.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, what else do we have? Vegas TJG, who has been playing the nose tackle in the 3-4 base, and have they been doing well? That is still Keanu Benton as your starting nose tackle. He missed a couple days with injury, but he's been okay overall, bigger. I think that'll help him play nose tackle a little bit, but your nose tackle depth chart has been Benton as your starter, Daniel Aquale, the pickup from New England in the offseason, your second-team nose tackle, Dominique Davis, a reserve we spent last year on the practice squad, your third-team nose tackle. I think Aquale's had a nice camp. He's a big guy in the middle. Thought he'd play some more DN. Maybe he will when rosters get cut down. But Benton, Aquale, your 2 nose tackles.
If Dominique Davis stays healthy and puts up he's only going to get time and probably in the second half of these preseason games. He's got a good shot because of the position he plays and because no one else has really logged time at nose tackle to be a practice squad guy, doesn't he?
Sure, if he plays well, yeah, I could certainly see that. I mean, Logan Lee has played nose tackle a little bit. I don't love that, but he has. So, in theory, if Lee doesn't make the 53, he could wear that hat on the practice squad too. Uh-huh. And they did cut Davis as their first roster move to accommodate Chuck Clark, so they have felt Davis to be one of the more expendable players, but they did re-sign him when they had some injuries on the D-line. And then Brain Fehoko, who is no longer looks like the big burly nose tackle he was a couple of years ago, but he wants to play up and down the line, so will Fehoko throw his hat into the ring as well. C. Michael, recently heard someone claim they could play majority 13 personnel. What's the max percentage that you can see Smith going 13, and how far from optimal would that be compared to a good 11 personnel with 3 receiver talents? They're not going to play 50% plus 13 personnel. I think it was, I have to look at our Clayton Eckert charting, but like 12% or 20% 13 personnel last year. They might play a quarter of it, 25%, maybe feels like the high end of things, but not majority.
Right, because you're still going to have situations, whether it be late in games or third down type situations, and there's going to be enough other situations where you're going to have 11 personnel out there.
Or just 12, which you can still
or
do.
Just
12,
yeah.
Now, is that optimal? What's the most optimal thing for 11 versus 13? It depends on the talent and your philosophy. Nothing is inherently right or wrong. I guess, ideally, if you could give me 3 great receivers or 3 great tight ends, depends on the people, but I'd probably say the 3 great receivers, so 11 personnel, but just give me guys who can make plays, because this offense has not made plays for a long time.
Uh-huh.
Couple more questions to finish things out. James Bohannon, a comment says, best Steelers coverage around. Alex and Dave, thank you so much, James.
Thank you.
Will the receiver room on cutdown day be the same room as the week 1 roster? Very good question run by you. I think more to evaluate there. Roman Wilson, if he can ascend or not, will dictate a lot. So I'll just say stay tuned, but we'll see.
Yeah, gonna at least probably be. I think the real question right now is what's going to happen with Robert Woods at this point, because obviously going to probably see DK, Calvin Austin III, Roman Wilson, Gunnar Olszewski as a wide receiver, probably because of his special teams ability.
You mean Scarron?
Not Gunnar. What did I say? Gunnar?
You said Gunnar Olszewski for special teams.
Ben Scarron.
Okay.
My bad.
You just gave Steeler fans a chill down their spines. Some bad memories there.
I'm sitting here trying to look at two different things and multitask here. Ben Skoranek as a depth guy because of his play on special teams as a gunner. Who's number 5? That's kind of a big question right now.
Did you say Robert Woods, Scotty Miller, Rob Taylor?
Yeah, that's where the question comes in, because Robert Woods isn't going to offer you anything on special teams, and the way you're saying the running order has been throughout camp, it does kind of make you wonder how far inside the bubble he may or may not be.
He could get return work. He won't be the starting punt returner. I'm pretty confident saying Calvin Austin will continue those duties, but I think Woods could be a backup and maybe still kick return, which I know isn't a ton of value, but we'll see how many kick returns there are with now the touchbacks going out to the 35, which will incentivize teams to kick short and trust their coverage to make the stop inside the 35. So I agree. I think Skoranek is ahead of Woods right now. I think Woods is on the bubble, but more inside the bubble than outside of it. I wouldn't expect him to do a whole lot if he makes the team, but I think he's still, if I made the roster right now, I would have Robert Woods on the 53. Would you, Dave?
I'll have to draw it out until I see something otherwise, because I think I had Woods in my first 53-man roster, so I need something visible to change from that. So we'll have to see after this first preseason game. So I guess right now I would still have him on my 53, but I'm not married to it.
Yeah, I think.
And if you kept 6 wide receivers too, where are you going to cut from another position?
Sure, I don't think 6 makes sense right now unless they were to add an outsider, because I don't know who would be so good that you felt compelled to keep the 6. I think you had your 5 that you mentioned: Metcalf, Austin, Skoranek, Wilson, Woods, and then 2 practice squatters being Scotty Miller as a veteran exception, and Rock Taylor is where I sit right now.
The thing is that they had Scotty Miller on this team for most of the season last year, and he played. What was the stat that we had on him?
Not much.
He logged 210 offensive snaps, which was a quarter. It was 25% of all offensive snaps. But how many targets did he actually have in the offense? 9. That's a lot of wasted routes out there.
Yeah, I mean, they were the king. Look at Van Jefferson, 800 snaps and 24 receptions. Yeah, I guess Miller did play more than I thought, but he didn't have a lot of productivity. He played a lot in like 13 personnel with that lone receiver as kind of that speed threat, but they ran mostly out of those packages. I like Scotty Miller. He's super fast, maybe the fastest receiver on the team, which is no small feat. A lot of speed in that room, but he's to me, he's a really good practice squad fit.
Real quick, being as how I have the charting pulled up, he was 13 last year, wasn't he?
Yes.
Number 13?
Yes, sir.
Let's see. Let me remove the blanks here on the charting, and then let's look at the personnel groupings. A lot of 13.
Yeah.
A lot of 11. But the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. The first 15 snaps that he played in 2024 came in 13 personnel.
Like I said, he was that lone receiver, that supposed speed threat, and I'm sure he played a little more 11 as the season went on. His injury struck and stuff like that, but he was still inactive for a good chunk of the season, and then he got cut, I think, before the playoff game. So, yeah, I like him, but practice squad is probably going to be his fit.
I mean, to play a guy 25% of your snaps at the wide receiver position and only get the amount of targets that he had, man.
Yeah, I hear you, and hopefully those numbers are a lot better than what Pittsburgh had last year with Jefferson and Miller, etc. John Pennington, are you guys surprised Boz hasn't gotten a raise in pay and Austin extended? No, go ahead though, Dave. I know you want to talk about Boz.
I think if anything happens with Boz, it's going to be after they get him through training camp and all.
Mm-hmm.
There's no real reason to do it right now, and obviously because of his age, you don't want him to get hurt or anything like that. So if they do anything with him, that could be that move that happens after they do the final cut down and they know where they're at, the cap situation and what they have allocated where. So am I surprised that I know I talk about it a lot. Am I shocked that it hasn't happened now? No. Because I have viewed the option of this being a late offseason raise for him, just for the sheer fact you just want to make sure you get him through healthy and all like that. So I'm not shocked there. Calvin Austin, I'm not shocked either. And unless they blew Calvin Austin's doors off, there's probably not much of a reason for him to sign it. I would imagine, and we talked about this when Deshaun Elliott signed his extension, that's got to be Austin's about ceiling right now anyway. So could they make it work if they wanted to go that way and the two sides agree? Yeah. But am I shocked nothing's happened there? No.
Same. I think Boz could get it maybe September before the season, a couple days before. Kind of feels like maybe his chance to get that salary advance. Won't be a new contract because he's 2 years out, and Calvin probably just plays out the year, and we'll see what happens come March.
It would be criminal if they don't do anything with Boz, especially all this money that they've thrown around to these other guys. And you tell me you can't push $3 million more forward to 2025 to take care of your kicker coming off of a career year and the amount of points that he scored. I mean, that would be a huge slap in the face to Boz. If we're talking about 13 or 13 million or something, like some crazy number, that'd be one thing. But you're just talking about giving him the $3.5 million cash raise in 2025. And if anybody deserves it, it's him.
For the NFL's best kicker, in my mind. So agreed on that. And he's also kicking in training camp, much to your chagrin. So he's being a good teammate and a good sport about it all. Couple more questions we'll get through as quickly as possible. Brian Junker, what have you seen out of Logan Lee and DeMarvin Leal so far? Will they make the 53? How many defensive line do we keep this year? 6 or 7? It's been 7 more recently. We'll see. Lee has played a little bit nose tackle, played more defensive end recently. He's had a fine camp. He's tough to run. He gets his hands up in throwing lanes. He runs hard with the football. So I want to see him in preseason action. He had that injury last year, so didn't get to really see a ton of exposure to him. Leal has had a good camp. Like I said, athletic, big, strong, tough matchup on the edges for some of these tight ends. How does he fit? Does he make the 53? I don't know how you chart that, but he's playing like a guy who's making a push for it.
Yeah, and it feels like it's going to be 6 defensive linemen. Obviously, injuries can change that and the whole rule, because you can send 2 guys to IR on designated to return right before the final cut down. But anything more than that, let's say you have 4 guys that are injured that have to go to IR that you want to designate to return. You would send 2 of those guys before the initial 53 is set, and then you'd have to take the other 2 would have to make your 53, and then before the week 1 game, then you would send them to IR. And that's what sometimes makes this so difficult last minute in putting together 53-man rosters. Are you talking about the initial 53-man roster, or are you talking about the week 1 53-man roster? Because those 2 things could differ by a couple of players, and that's why it's hard to get it. Will any of these guys also be like borderline injured where they don't need to go to IR at the start of the season, but you need the one more body, and that makes it interesting as well too. So, and we got 3 preseason games to get through, but I would think just on general assumption, it'll be 6 defensive linemen on the 53 come the week 1 game.
Not 7?
What did I have on my 53? Can you pull that up real quick?
Sure. I think it was 7.
Did I have 7?
I'm not sure, actually. I'm just kind of filling time. But you had Otomewa as your last defensive lineman, I think. They kept 8 on the initial 53 last year. Then Logan Lee went to IR.
Right.
So they ended up going with 7 for week 1. Let's see how many Dave kept. He kept 7.
Did I keep 7? Okay.
You did. You
all
had
right.
your starters. Go ahead.
Then you could I think it is plausible to have 7 there. I can't remember if I kept 6 or 7. Because I did keep 4 safeties. I think I kept six corners.
Let's scroll. Yes, you did.
All right, and I kept I kept 5 inside linebackers, 4 outside linebackers.
Yeah, you went 26 defense and light 24 offense.
Right. So yeah, seven's very plausible then.
We'll see how it plays out. Again, it's about who earns it too, and those spots are still for the taking. A couple more questions really quickly. How has Howard looked? I really like the pick. He's looked composed. Moment's not been too big for him. I think he's been decisive, in rhythm, not deer in the headlights. Got to work on some exchange issues, some snap issues, handoff issues, that kind of stuff. Fairly common for a rookie. Hasn't made maybe a ton of wow throws, but he's just kind of gone. He's been comfortable and I think poised overall, and gotten the ball out quickly, knows where to go, goes through his progression. So I like the start. Not going to pretend like, oh my God, we're watching the next franchise quarterback. Let's get this guy inside a stadium and throw some passes against a defense that's not his own. But it's a good start for Will Howard.
Have you changed your opinion over or under 99.5 preseason snaps for Will Howard?
Well, I've changed my opinion about his roster odds. I went from like 95% to now 99.9% he's going to make it. On preseason snaps, let's find out if Aaron Rodgers is going to play it all in the opener. That might dictate things a little bit for Howard's snap count. I still think Mason Rudolph will play a lot, but yeah, I mean, I think you're more likely to be right than I'm likely to be right about his snap count, because Skylar Thompson is kind of fading here.
Say that again?
You cut out. Sorry, Dave. We got to move on. So sorry about that. Rick, any tackles they could trade for? I mentioned a couple names, but we'll talk about it more when we get closer to cut down date. Mike Adesso, is this going to be the best secondary of the Tomlin era? Maybe top 3 defense in the Tomlin era? I mean, 08's tough to top. I know you're saying top 3. It could be. I don't have a great order of the top defenses right now. 08, 10, 19, and 20 were really good. But say it can be up there secondary and overall. Sure, Mike.
Look, this defense needs to be top 5 in adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat, and I think they can do it. And if they do that, and they play, and they're some of these teams that they struggled, they had problems against the run last year. I think one of the biggest questions I have about this defense right now is how will they be up the middle, up the spine against the run? That's probably my biggest wondering right now. And if they're able to answer that question, they should be a top 5 pass defense, I would think, assuming everybody stays healthy in that defense. And if they do that, then you have to figure that the points allowed is going to be fairly low, and that means they're going to be in a lot of ball games overall. So that's I think the prospects of this defense being, however you want to measure it statistically in whatever category, and hopefully run is one of those, that they're top 5. And if they're able to do that, then they're going to be in a lot of ball games this year.
With Dean Lowry going down, says Run Bayou, who is the next most versatile defensive lineman. He was playing everywhere, right? I don't think Lowry was playing everywhere. I mean, I guess in theory, he's played left end, right end in his career. He's playing a lot of left end, lefty tackle in Pittsburgh. Next most versatile...
Probably a Quale, right?
Yeah, I mean, I assume Quale will get some end work whenever the rosters get whittled down, and there's just less bodies for the taking. So he's played nose tackle. He can play end. It might be him, but a lot of these guys can play, D tackle and base end, or nose tackle and D tackle. There's not a lot of like 2-down guys anymore on these rosters, so none of them can probably play like everything. I was going to say Cam, but Cam has tried nose tackle in the past, and that hasn't gone super well for him. So, yeah, I mean, they're all kind of in the same boat in terms of versatility. They play 2 spots.
Okay.
Let's see. Anything else here really quickly? What number will Skoranek be? Number 15, David. Is it too early to start panicking about the offense? Yeah, I wouldn't say panic. It's too harsh of a word. It's not been a good start, but let's keep watching, Mike.
Yeah, let's watch.
And any thoughts on Trice? Somebody's asked about this earlier, I think. I forget what the question was.
I don't know. They're going to have to make a move coming up with this new DB that they've apparently signed, Daryl Porter Jr., who's going to be the odd man out. Is somebody going to go to IR, or is this another position group? We're going to have our answer to that first thing in the morning.
Yeah, it could be Trice, but it could also be Dante Kent if that foot injury, being in a boot, is serious enough. It could also be a Lance McCutcheon or somebody like that just gets squeezed in a more healthy group. And also, What will Porter Jr.'s jersey say on the back of it come Saturday? How will that go?
I guess you have to put the first initial
Yeah.
on that.
So it'll be D. Porter Jr. It's going to be a long set of text on the back of his jersey, but interesting. And you pointed out his dad was drafted by the Steelers. Pretty cool. So anyway, we're going to...
I was alive when that happened.
It was in the late 90s, yeah. I was alive too.
Were you alive?
It was, 97? Yeah, I was. Okay. I was about the same size as I was then. But anyway... There you go. We're gonna wrap
What a way to end it.
And what a way to end it. Just like we started making fun of me. All right, Dave, we're going to wrap things up. Appreciate all that. Actually, David says, I meant receiver number 6, number 5. We'll see. I mean, he's kind of running receiver 4 right now, but he'll get ahead on special teams and they'll mix and match. And that's just kind of really what matters more so than receiver 5 or 6 or anything like that.
Now, they had lost him a little bit of time last year due to that injury and all. How many snaps? Let's go down a rabbit hole one more quick time before we get out of here.
Snaps did he play? He was getting the big
101.
Most late in the year.
15% of the snaps last year. And targets for him were 5.
Yeah, he was the big personnel 13 blocker when they kind of had Miller early in the season and they went to more Skowronek later in the year. All right, going to wrap things up. Appreciate all the support. Ran a little bit long today, but figured you guys deserved it after us missing last Monday. We'll be back. We might be back this upcoming Monday to try to get back on our normal schedule or not. We'll kind of play things by ear. We'll have the announcement, maybe a community note on that. But thank you guys for being here. Thank you to everyone who asked questions, donated super chats, and the like. And Dave, as always, thank you for being here as well.
Well, you get all the credit. You're the one that passed along a lot of information. You moderate these things, do a fine job. Had a great turnout tonight. Great questions from those in attendance. We appreciate everybody for showing up and supporting us in our habits, if you will. So with that, peace and love, everybody.
There'll be an archived version of this on YouTube and on the site later today. We'll have our training camp recap podcast Tuesday and then the regular show on Wednesday. So thank you guys so much. Again, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, check out the site, SteelersDepot.com. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon.